And we've got a new chief of staff, and that is General Kelly. I mean, I was reading in the Washington Post this week, and I know I hate the paper, but I was reading it. But the story about General Kelly was one of it was unbelievable. 4 days after his son was killed in Afghanistan, he actually gave a speech to a crowd in St. Louis with one request: please don't mention my son. In the speech, he said their struggle, meaning the military, is your struggle. If anyone thinks you can somehow thank them for their service and not support the cause for which they fight, our country, well, these people are lying to themselves. And more importantly, they're slighting our warriors and mocking their commitment to this nation. And what he said about his own son that he lost: we were only one of 5,500 American families who had suffered the loss of a child in this war, and the death of my boy simply cannot be made to seem any more tragic than the others. Wow. Newt Gingrich knows him very well. He joins us now, former Speaker of the House. How long have you known General Kelly?
I think we first met about 1994. He had been at the National Defense University. He was a lieutenant colonel, and he came over and became a colonel, and for 4 years was the Chief Marine Corps liaison to the House while I was Speaker. We traveled together. He's a brilliant guy. I really like him very much, and I think he will be a great Chief of Staff.
All right, let me ask you, there's a lot of articles, a lot of things that the president was tweeting this weekend. You know, the world is watching, he said. Repeal and replace, go to 51 votes, get rid of the nuclear option, in other words. I agree with him on all of that. And by the way, Congress shouldn't have a separate plan from anybody. He said, don't give up on Obamacare. Then you got Mo Brooks said if Mitch McConnell can't get this done, he ought to go. And Mitch McConnell, he says it's time to move on from repealing Obamacare. What is your take on all of this mess that they created?
Well, I mean, first of all, and this is my newsletter that's going to come out on Wednesday at Gingrich Productions, I think it's important to remember that for every Republican who voted no, there were 16 Democrats. For the 3 Republicans who voted no, there were 10 Democrats in states that Trump carried, who are up for re-election next year, who voted no. So part of my caution to my conservative friends and my Republican friends is spend a lot more of your energy beating the 10 Democrats, and you're going to have a margin for error, which you don't have right now. Which is, I mean, we just proved that even trying to pass things at 51-49, they can't do it right now because on a lot of these close issues, they're not going to get to 51. And that's going to continue to be true until they learn to go to the country. You know, Reagan understood that if you got the country excited, the country would force the Congress to cooperate. And as they start to look, for example, at a tax cut program, my real number one concern is to get them to have the kind of tax cuts you can explain back home so people go to the town hall meeting and or they go on talk radio or they go on letters to the editor and they say, I really want this. And then it's going to all of a sudden be very easy to pass. And you're going to have Democrats vote for it. So part of it is I would just do this whole thing differently. Where they are right now, I think, they ought to break the bill up into 5 or 6 different bills, write each of them to be extraordinarily popular, drive them through, taunt the Democrats into voting no, and either get the Democrats to vote yes and help pass them, or beat them in the 2018 election.
How about Mitch McConnell not go on vacation for August? How about they stay and do their job?
Well, I think he's already indicated they're going to stay until they get most of the president's appointees confirmed, and I think under the pressure of that, the Democrats are actually starting to agree to move some. I mean, it is truly disgraceful how much Schumer and the Democrats have blocked just simply being able to fill up the Defense Department, Homeland Security, Justice, you name it, with what would normally have been under Obama or under George W. Bush, just done almost automatically. Obama actually got 79 nominees cleared in 1 week in July of 2009. And this has been a deliberate effort to stall the government and to slow down the rate of change. And I think that McConnell is now calling Schumer's bluff on this. So we'll see how that works. But the other side of it is, and I think you and I probably just don't agree on this, they can revote this 20 times. The fact is they're not going to get McConnell. I mean, they're not going to get McCain. They're not going to get Mikulski, and they're not going to get... how
do they get to hold the whole party hostage to the major promise they made, and they themselves made? All 3 of those, well, except with the exception of Susan Collins.
Yeah, I mean, Collins has been very consistent, and I've always separated her out. Well, remember that first of all, remember that Mikulski is a very tough infighter who actually lost the primary and came back and won her seat in a write-in. So she's pretty hard to intimidate. And, of course, McCain got reelected, and he's 80 years old. He's going to do what he thinks he ought to do, period. Well, you can agree or disagree. I'm with you. I think when somebody campaigns for 7 years, and I remember that John McCain, for example, actually ran a commercial talking about how he wanted to repeal Obamacare. I mean, I do think there's some point here where he should have voted yes, not no. I don't. Yeah. You and I are on the same side about that. My point, though, is as a practical matter that I do think they can get a lot of this stuff passed. I think they can actually package it in smaller boxes rather than trying to do one gigantic bill. They'll come out. They'll have planned between now and Christmas 4 to 6 health bills, each of them designed to be popular. Things you and I believe in, for example, health savings accounts. There's no reason that can't be sold to the American people as a really positive thing to do.
You know what? You know what's amazing? You had the healthcare solution. I forgot healthcare. What did you call your group? I forget.
We had the Center for Health Transformation.
Yeah. Okay.
And I wrote a book called Saving Lives and Saving Money.
Right. And I remember you and I don't think there's been a year in the 25 years I've known you that at some point we didn't talk at length about solutions like health savings accounts and cooperatives. You know, I personally believe this. I want to ask a bigger picture. I think that if Republicans get the promises completed, get the economy moving. I like your idea about making the president's tax plan, tax cuts for the middle class, tax cuts for corporations, repatriation, all retroactive. I think that helps the economy, brings jobs back. If they build 300 miles of the wall, they repeal and replace, and they get energy moving, I think everybody gets reelected, no problem. But I'm also very upset with the Republicans, not only that they can't move legislation, that the Democrats got a special counsel in the strangest of circumstances. Hillary Clinton is smashing BlackBerries and iPhones, you know, because she doesn't want to hand them over. She has a private email server, mishandled classified top secret information and destroyed it. Then the Uranium One deal. Then the Ukrainians trying to influence the election. Then Loretta Lynch. And now the latest is Debbie Wasserman Schultz and this nutty IT guy with an ankle bracelet, $300,000 trying to take off to Pakistan after he destroyed hard drives.
Well, you know, this is one that I really think people need to look at. And I'm going to start taunting the New York Times and the Washington Post and others about covering this thing. You have here, going all the way back to 2004, House Democrats were involved with a bunch of Pakistanis who have been paid millions and millions of dollars working on information technology. Now, think about this. These are guys, in one case, one of the people that they're connected to was seen by the CIA in Beirut conversing with Hezbollah. The relationships are really, truly weird. They apparently, since 2010, the family has collectively been paid $4 million in taxpayer money running IT, which means they had access to all sorts of official records in the U.S. House. The wife of the key figure has fled to Pakistan and was not stopped by the FBI. I mean, it just goes on and on.
It's unbelievable to me. And again, the Republicans don't use their power of subpoena. They're only finally, as of Thursday, asking for special counsels. And they're not getting things done legislatively, or I can say, oh, they were busy. It's not like they're busy, accomplishing and achieving the promises they made to us.
Well, look, this is a place where the House Judiciary Committee has a huge opportunity to step in, because everything we're learning here involves not only theft on a grand scale, but also involves the whole question of whether or not this was an intelligence collapse. And the more you look at it, the stranger it gets.
All right, Newt Gingrich is with us. We're going to continue on the other side. I want to get to the issue of balancing legislative accomplishments and promises and also fighting so we don't have a two-tier justice system in the country. And that means using the power of subpoena and certainly the appointment of a special counsel in the case of all of these scandals that the media is ignoring on the Democrats. All right, as we continue with former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. By the way, his book, Understanding Trump, has now been, nearly up to 10 weeks on the New York Times list, debuting at #1 on the list, which is a great tribute to you, Mr. Speaker. So I'm looking at Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Hillary Clinton. I'm looking at the Ukraine influence in the election, Loretta Lynch, James Comey. Now the general counsel of the FBI is being investigated for leaking. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then Uranium One, which I think is by far the worst scandal because there was a real quid pro quo. And I want to balance what the Republicans ought to be doing, and that's getting their act together. It's August, and getting their job done and finishing their promises and making good to their promises, and also balancing fundamental fairness in our justice system.
Well, look, I think that there is a lot of work to be done. I think in some areas you're beginning to see real momentum. You may have noticed that Attorney General Sessions has announced a dramatic increase in prosecutions about people who are leaking and violating classification and leaking our secrets, which is a step in the right direction. I think that this whole question of the imbalance both of press coverage and of congressional and Justice Department activity between the efforts to smear President Trump and the very real problems that we now know. I mean, the Debbie Wasserman Schultz story, and she was, after all, the head of the Democratic National Committee and a big supporter of Hillary's. The fact is that there are hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen here that we know are real. I mean, this is not.
Well, we know they double billed. They double billed the whole time, and we know that there are people in this guy's family that had no business on that job or access to our secrets.
That's right. And so you have to stop and ask yourself, why is it, first of all, why did she keep him around so long? And I'm beginning to think probably she was blackmailed. I don't know what he knew or what he found through the IT, because he had access to an amazing number of information technology, both the House Democratic Conference, apparently, I think 26 different members had hired him. So this Pakistani family had a level of access to U.S. government documents and U.S. government information that is beyond astonishing, and that it should be a major national scandal. And yet, other than the Daily Caller and a handful of people, it has been remarkably undercovered by the major news media. Just astonishingly so.
Well, and I think this is so. I'm trying to balance it. I feel like at times, Mr. Speaker, and I've been out there on a limb almost my entire career, vetting Obama. I was right on Duke Lacrosse. I was right on Richard Jewell back in the day. I was right on a whole variety of these issues. Ferguson, Freddie Gray, George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin. I was right on all of them and went against the media grain. I know that Russia's nothing. I know these scandals are real. And I find that I'm sitting here on an island sometimes, and it is beyond frustrating.
Well, I think it also validates exactly what Trump campaigned on. There is a deep state, there is a swamp. They are both opposed to Trump. They're both going to do everything they can to stop people like you and me. It means we're always fighting uphill, but we have two huge advantages. One is the American people instinctively believe we're right, and the other is the more facts you learn, the more obvious it is that we're right. And we can afford to have a very fact-based conversation, as you pointed out a while ago. The uranium deal is real. The money from the secret Canadian foundation that poured money into the Clinton Foundation is real. The money paid to Bill Clinton for a speech in Moscow is real. So we can have a very fact-based conversation.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for being with us. He'll join us tonight on Hannity. Later on, former presidential candidate and Governor Mike Huckabee will check in. When we get back, we'll get your reaction, your phone calls straight ahead.